Hey, what's going on, everybody? Got another video for you tonight. Now, since I was off, I was able to, kind of gather up some more details and information on these mysterious vanishings of the victims that happen in national parks, national forests, urban areas, and rural areas. And it happens all over the country. Okay, no matter where you are. So that alone is the essential problem when it comes to all these people just seemingly vanishing without a trace. And you got people like David Paulides, who is really getting down to the minutia of the data, getting down to the nitty gritty of all of the cases dealing with these people, and looking very close to the evidence that is found, around the people who are turning up dead without a cause of death. He goes for the FOIA and gets the reports for, of the autopsies and the toxicology reports and a list of what they found and all that stuff. Sometimes he finds some of the weirdest stuff. Sometimes he doesn't find anything because it's mainly redacted to where you can only see probably like 20% of all the information that is given to him. And I think that is just a poor reason for them to actually do what they do and yet still try to make sure that we don't find anything. And I think that is just wrong, very wrong. Excuse me for 1 second, guys. Okay. Yeah, I'm still a little under the weather, so trying to do the best I can. All right. Okay, this video is going to be about profile points, but of course I want to also bring in some of my own personal experiences dealing with UFOs and ghosts. Okay, so I did one about ghosts on my last video. This one will be about UFOs. I want to make sure that it is a very good one. It's a small one, but it's good. Okay. This one actually happened right here in the good old A. And it's not your typical UFO experience that you would see on TV where they drama it up or they talk about, them seeing a huge UFO, right above their head and they was abducted and all that stuff. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I believe that it does happen. Trust me, because I think a lot of that is correlated along with the people who disappear. Okay, because a lot of the evidence leads you back to abductions. And I've mentioned before in my last video about how when people seem to vanish, they vanish in a UFO abduction way. Okay. And just like the one about what was his name? Stephen Kubacki, how he for some reason walked out into the middle of Lake Michigan on a frozen lake, and his feet, the footprints stopped right smack dab in the middle of the lake, and that was it. It was almost as if he vanished right there in the center of the lake. But I'm thinking that he was abducted by aliens, brought up to their craft by some sort of gravity beam, and he was dropped off somewhere with no memory of what happened to him. So, yes. But anyway, my UFO experience is not of me being abducted. It's just your typical UFO experience. I was going to my mom's house, for a visit. It was at night, I think around maybe 8-9 o'clock, and I believe it wasn't the summertime. I think it was cooler at that time. I'm not completely sure, but I was walking up the steps, getting to ring the doorbell, and I just happened to look up because I always have my head in the stars. I'm always looking up. I'm also an amateur astronomer. I have an $800 telescope that I look through all the time to watch astronomical anomalies. and look at the craters of the moons, the different star clusters, um, nebulas that I can actually see through the Earth's atmosphere. They look blue instead of the typical bright colors that you see on TV shows dealing with space and all that stuff. But I just happened to look up, and the moon was like right there. Okay, and I saw like a bright dot right up underneath it, and that bright dot moved up at a 2 o'clock angle, and as it was leaving the atmosphere, the brightness of the UFO diminished. And I've stated this before about UFOs. The reason why they glow, while in the sky at night or during the day, for two reasons. Number one, during the day, the UFO is bombarded by sunlight, so it looks bright because it's a metallic structure, or a metallic craft, rather. At night, when it's coming through the atmosphere, before it hits the Earth's atmosphere, it's being bombarded by radiation, from space, and they're coming from thousands and thousands of light years away to get here, and all that radiation is beating down on this craft, top and bottom, and as it enters the Earth's atmosphere, it actually when it hits the Earth's magnetic field and then enters the atmosphere, by it being by it entering through the Earth's magnetic field, it's the radiation is reacting to it. That's why it glows at night. That's why you just see like a bright dot in the sky. So as I'm seeing it go out into outer space at a 2 o'clock angle, the brightness of the craft diminishes, and then a second later I see a streak of light shooting off into deep space. So that right there was pretty amazing, because I was like, wow. And I just kept looking up there, and before I could, get myself together so I can ring the doorbell, I saw that, and it was an amazing thing to see, because it basically confirmed, UFOs. I mean, I already knew there was a such thing as UFOs and aliens and all that stuff, but to actually see a UFO moving out of the Earth's atmosphere and shooting off into space in a streak of light, okay, that was amazing to see. So that was my experience. Like I said, a lot of my experiences are not your typical experience that you would see on TV, where they say they was abducted by aliens, and one person said one time that sperm was extracted from him. It was like some sort of like a rod, like a mechanical rod with a point at the end, a long point at the end, that came over his head and stopped right over his penis. And they did something, and he had an orgasm like that, where of course he released semen, and they collected it so that they can, reproduce. Because apparently, when I've heard rumors about how aliens, they beat death, where they can actually become immortal. They don't die. Plus the fact they don't have sex organs. They're basically, what do you call them? Asexual. They're asexual, so they don't have sex organs, and because of that, they can't reproduce. But they still want to create a race of their own kind. So, but in order for them to do that, they need semen, they need sperm, and they can't get that from themselves, so they have to get it from us to create these alien human hybrids. And a lot of people, especially a lot of women who are pregnant and they're abducted by aliens, sometimes they will take the womb, the fetus, all of that, and leave you with nothing, all because you were selected to birth a child with alien DNA. And one woman who did that, she said that when she talked to one of the aliens through mental telepathy, she said that the alien, I believe it was a female alien, said that it would never survive, living here on Earth, or she would never survive. But I think she said the baby would never survive, so the baby would have to stay with them. It could be atmospheric problems with her lungs. It could be because she's a alien human hybrid and she would actually be shunned and probably dissected by the government, especially if they found out about the baby. So I think that could have been what they were talking about. But anyway, that was my UFO experience. Small but yet effective. And I still have plenty more, so don't fret on that. Trust me. All right, now to get started, I wanted to talk about initial key points in a lot of these missing people, these mysterious disappearance cases. Okay, to start off with the national parks. The National Park Service never keeps a list of missing people. At least that's what they tell us. They have the know-how, they have the means, because if they can keep a record of the toilet paper in the park and have a list of the movies that were made in their park about the National Park Service, or the National Park Service was being used in a movie where, like in like action movies or something like that, and they just happen to be in the national park where there's a lot of trees. They may have needed that for the scene. They keep lists of that, but yet you don't keep lists of missing people that vanish in your park. And I mean that word loosely, vanish. They literally vanish in that park. But yet they don't keep track. And see, the thing is, they control everything in the park, the National Park Service, as well as the rangers, the superintendent. And if they don't want to give it up, they're not going to give up any information. They have that right by that being a federal-owned monument. What can you do? Okay? And for the simple fact that even if the president were to issue for them to give them the information, they would still say no. It's like the president has no jurisdiction in that park, and he's supposed to be the commander-in-chief. That makes you think that the commander-in-chief is in on the whole deal as well. So there has got to be some type of link with the government, and the fact that, like, Eisenhower turned down a family's request to bring in the FBI, or well, no, not the FBI, but Rangers to search for their child, and they never even got a response from the president himself. So what does that tell you? That tells me that they got something to do with it, and they don't want to divulge any information dealing with these cases or whatever's out there doing this. So obviously they know something, and it's almost like Marlon Thomas is one of my viewers. He said that he thinks that they cut a deal with the Park Service, cut a deal with these beings that's taking these people. Kind of reminds me of this treaty that the government signed with the aliens, giving them full they gave them the ability to abduct the human race at will, by any means necessary, as long as they bring them back to where they last got them from, like in their home or whatever. But I guess they must feel like they're inferior to the human race, and they just do what they want. They abduct us and they just drop us off somewhere on Earth. It'll be in the same place where you came from, but it won't be at your front doorstep or inside your bed or something like that, because they can abduct you in some of the craziest ways. You can go levitating out of the room and through the wall and up into their craft, and then they wipe your memory and they place you somewhere, either outside in your front yard or somewhere else, in the woods somewhere. There was a story about a man and a woman who was dating for a long time, and they saw something up in the sky and they were looking at it, right? And all of a sudden, they're still looking at it, and she realizes she's still standing there, and it looked like it only lasted for a couple of minutes, okay? But her boyfriend or husband was gone. I think he went back in the house, or he went home, saying that you wouldn't move, and I just left. But she was abducted. But they wiped her memory. They wiped her memory clean of that gap. So whatever happened to her between when she looked up into the sky and when she just happened to realize that she's still standing there looking at the sky, whatever happened in between that is gone completely. It's a huge gap. So it looked like it only lasted for a couple of seconds. But in actuality, her boyfriend or her husband went back in the house because she wouldn't move. you know, at that point. And he said that she just went off. I think he said that she went off somewhere or something. I'm not sure. I can't remember, but it's weird. But anyway, okay, you need to check. Okay, if they tell you that if you want a list of all the people that disappeared in their parks, like how David Paulides has always done, they will tell you that if you want the list, it's going to cost you $43,000 for just a list from one park. And if you want a list from all the parks, it's going to cost you a total amount of $1.4 million for the entire system. Well, a list from the entire system. And that is crazy. But you know what? George Knapp said that I don't even think that if you actually had a check for $43,000, I still don't think they'd give it to you. They just said that to keep you from wanting to get the list. I think that was their way of messing with your head. They said that on purpose, so because I guess they figured that you would never want to pay $43,000 for a single list of a bunch of people that disappeared in national parks. You know, I mean, if I had it, I would pay it. But at the same time, I think they would come up with some asinine reason why they still couldn't give it to you. You know, so the money ain't really that big of a problem. They probably take the money and you still wouldn't get nothing. If you did, it would be redacted. Who knows? I don't know. But it is what it is. That's what they do. Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, I just want to let you guys know that I've been getting a lot of emails from you guys, and I just want to let you know that I haven't forgot about a lot of you, especially the ones that sent me information about different cases. I have to check through a lot of my emails so that I can read them and go over what I need to go over and post it on my channel. But I will get to them. One of my viewers told me about the young man who was found dead, wrapped up in a mat behind the bleachers in his high school, which happened right here in Georgia. So I got to go through that story because it's a lot of information, and it's got file footage of a person with a camcorder walking through the gymnasium and actually walking to behind. He sees something in the corner and walks over by the bleachers, and bam, he sees feet sticking out from a rolled up mat, and it was him. But one thing I don't like about that video, or the photos that they put out of that young boy, they put out photos of him before he died, and then they still keep flashing the photo of his body when it was exhumed to find out what happened to him. He was all bloated up and everything. It didn't even look like looked like someone punched him in his face like 20,000 times, you know, because he was bloated and he was dead, but his body had started to gas up and bloat, and he kind of looked. If you ever watched this TV show Martin, with Martin Lawrence, there was a scene in one of his episodes where his face was all swollen up, eyeballs all puffed up. His face, it looked like he had a big old potato head, and that's kind of like what that young man looked like. He was all bloated up, lips was fat and just swollen. Everything on his body was swollen, and he just looked nasty. And I don't know why they even showed that. If you were to look up photos of him, that would be one of the photos, and they keep flashing that for some reason. Nobody wants to see that. It's bad enough we found out that he died under mysterious circumstances. Nobody knows how he died. I don't even think there was even any cause of death on his body. They found him fully clothed, except for his shoes, which were right near the body, but there was no cause of death whatsoever. I don't think. I'd have to look at the information again to find out. So to the guy who sent me that information or told me to look that up for the channel, I will do that. I promise. I just got to go through my my emails and everything and make sure I get all the information I need for that so I can post it on my my next video or when I get that opportunity, because as you guys already know, I still work my job, so it's a very demanding job, okay? And when I come home, I be tired sometimes, even though I want to make a video for you guys. I love doing that, but every once in a while I get tired, and then of course I have my family to deal with. I got my daughter, so I be busy with my family a lot because family is very important to me. Now I already lost my dad, and so I try to and my nana. So I try to make sure I spend as much time with my family as possible. So, but in light of that, I will get to my emails and I will get to all those stories so that I can get them on here. So that's a promise. I will do that. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. That was from my #1 fan. I gotta make sure I read that. Okay. Okay, I did that already. Okay. Oh, okay. Now, also, when the families look to the National Park Service for answers, a lot of them are shunned in a very cold way. Like one family that David Paulides went to one of the parks with, they wanted to talk to the superintendent. He wouldn't even come to the door. They kept saying, well, he's busy right now. Now, see, me personally, by me being a New Yorker, I probably would have lost it, and I would have held the people in that satellite office hostage until I got some answers. That is just how peed off I would have gotten if my child or loved one disappeared in your park and you're gonna sit up there and act like you too busy to talk to me. Oh no, that would not fly with me. That New Yorker would come out and somebody would either get hurt or they're gonna get yelled at, or I'm gonna call the scene, because they would not leave that office. I would lock it down, and if I don't know what I would do, so I pray every day that my daughter doesn't end up that way, or anybody else in my family, because if her mother comes at me and tells me that well, she's the school is planning a field trip to a national park, I said, well, she's not going. I said, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? What I mean? What have I told you about that stuff? She is not going. Okay, not unless I know that they're gonna have their eye on those children 24/7. She's not going, because at some point, some of them kids are gonna get away from those so-called people, and one of them is gonna fall behind or get ahead of them. They're not gonna be able to watch all of them. Next thing you know, they be like, "Where's such and such?" And they look for him, and they can't find him. That's not gonna happen to my daughter. So she would not be going to no national park, even if it is a field trip. I don't care. So anyway, but yes, he went to that place and they just shunned him. They act like they weren't of any importance to them, And like I said, with me, if they did that to me, oh, that would never happen, because first of all, you are going to tell me what's going on. I don't care how ominous it may seem. I don't care how dangerous it may seem. I don't care how spooky or evil that thing, whatever that thing is. First of all, I am well aware of the unknown and what we look at as impossible. I know about all that stuff, so you can't say anything that I wouldn't understand. I don't know if it's because of that or they just don't want to say nothing because it's just too weird and they don't want to touch it. But I will make you touch it. I will make you tell me what's going on and why my daughter disappeared in this park. Did you make a deal with these beings? Did they threaten you? And you said, okay, well, we'll let you take them so you won't take us. I mean, what else is there? They know something's going on in that park, and they know what's going on. That's why the park service, the people in the park service, like the superintendent and the rangers, they have no control over what has to be said. If someone from the top tells them don't do anything, it gets trickled down. It's like what did my job call it? Chain of command. If it trickles down to the superintendent got to tell the rangers what the top person said. So they don't have any control over that. Even though they control the park, there's somebody else calling the shots, and it ain't the superintendent. It's somebody else from even higher up, whoever that may be. I don't know who's over the superintendent in a national park. I really don't. I'd have to look that up to find out. But if something like that was to happen, I would lose my mind, and somebody would be held hostage until I get some answers. If they had to call the cops, oh well. But if it's for my daughter, I'm going to go out with a bang, and I will try my best to find it, even if I find out on my deathbed. If I end up with a bullet in my side, or if I had to torture one of the rangers or the superintendent. That's the kind of mind that you have when you have a child that's missing in your park, and the dogs can't find a scent. You can't find them. They're not calling out to you. And even if you hear them calling out to you, you can't find out where the voice is coming from, because they're calling you from another dimension. That's what it is. And whatever took them gives them the opportunity to do that. It'll be your last words, but you will never find them. It's like there's a wall between you and that other dimension, but you can still hear them, but you can't see them. You can't pinpoint exactly where they are. I don't know. It kind of reminds me of that story that Kim Star 66 told me about what happened to her dad when they were little, and how he saw his little girl, her baby sister, running in the brush near the house, and he kept calling for her, but she just kept running away and laughing like she was just having fun. And then he realized something was wrong because he couldn't catch up to her, and then he went back and saw the family driving up the driveway, and he looked at his daughter, the youngest one, who was wearing a pink jacket, and he looked like he was losing his mind because they saw how frightened he was. And then when he saw her coming, he ran over to her, gave her the biggest hug ever. He said, "You will never wear that coat ever again," because he doesn't. That it remind him too much of that. And they don't go into the brush anymore after that one. Because I see, this is another thing. I think that people are being led into the forest by these beings that can actually take the form of someone that you actually know. Okay, and they use that against you to lure you into the park. I mean, into the forest, and then they take you. But lucky for her father, he wasn't one of them. He had enough mind to know that something wasn't right, so he went back. Because if he had kept following this little girl or someone that looked like his little girl, ain't no telling what could have happened. So I'm glad he was smart enough to get away from that. So big ups to you, father of Kim Star 66. You the man. Okay, on to the next. All right. Now the Park Service, like I said, controls everything in the parks. Okay, I did that. And another thing, professional trackers can't track the victims for some reason. You know, sometimes they don't find tracks at all. The dogs are going to all these different places and they just can't find a scent. You know, there's nothing to track. There's no footprints. There's no nothing. There's nothing left behind after they disappear. Okay, now also you got casual walkers in the national parks. You know, they just walking in just to enjoy the scenery and all that stuff. Then you have hunters, campers, and runners who seem to just vanish. Sometimes very young kids with autism, kids who can't speak, can't take or remove their clothing, and plus the fact as soon as you're alone, that's when it happens. That's when you're taken. And I say all of these scenarios happen with a lot of these cases. You know, you got little children who are stricken with autism or some sort of disability. They can't speak or anything, so that makes them an easy target to be taken because you know they ain't gonna be yelling out, help, or they're not gonna be able to talk even if you let them go. And most of them are never even found. And the ones that are found, they have this like look in their eyes, like they just saw something that they never thought they would ever see. They said it's like I forgot it's like they have this far away look in their eyes, where they just like, dazed and they just frozen. And that's how they be looking if they're actually found. One little girl I heard about had scratches all over her face, and they couldn't figure out how she got them. And she was too petrified to even talk at that point, and I don't think they ever really found out what happened to her. So it's anybody's guess on that part. But yeah, and stuff like you got, like I said, with kids who can't do a lot of things. They can't remove their clothes. They can't put them on. So why is their shirt off? Why are their shoes off? If you couldn't do none of those things, why are your shoes off? So that means something or someone took the shoes off and made it very hard for them to move around because their feet is going to get stuck with a lot of twigs and rocks and all that stuff. So they make it very hard for you to get out of that area because you ain't got no shoes on. So you just stay put until someone finds you. And a lot of times some of the kids are found and a lot of them aren't. You got some kids that seem to traverse large distances and high elevations for no apparent reason. It's like, why would you go up when you could just go down, which would be easy for you? But the main question would be, why would you even go that high? How did you get that high? A 2-year-old to the mind of a person like me or anybody else would say a 2-year-old cannot go that high, or can they? Maybe they were shot up with a lot of adrenaline. They gave them the energy to go that far. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they somehow induced their adrenaline level, even at that age, and they were able to do what they had to do to get up there or whatever. Sometimes they're found up there alive. Sometimes they're barely alive. Sometimes they're dead. Like Keith Parkins. I'm talking about a little boy who went 19 hours, 12 miles in 19 hours. This little boy went over 3 mountain ranges, 2 fields, and a fence. And he was found barely breathing or barely alive in a creek bed in the middle of the winter with no shoes on. His pants were shredded. And everybody said he was fine after a while. He seemed to have forgotten his ordeal. He can't remember what happened, but at the same time, he was barefooted. That makes you wonder, what condition was his feet in for him to be traveling that far? His feet should have been frozen solid or blackened from being in the cold that long. Frostbitten, big time. Because when you get frostbite and your hands freeze, they turn black. And I think that comes from the blood settling to the top as it freezes, and it settles at the top layer of your skin, causing your hands to look black or your fingertips to look black. I'm thinking that could be what that is. But, like I said, it is what it is. Okay. Now, when they're taken, everything that they wear, everything that they were carrying goes missing with them. Like say with hunters, if they went out there with a gun and other types of gear that they may bring with them, they never find that either. So it's almost like they never were even in the park. They tracked them to a certain area where they should have been, but they don't find no evidence of them even being there, which is another weird part of these cases. Let's see. Now, when these people actually go missing, it's always the late afternoon, which is the most common time for them to disappear. In a lot of cases I read, they always say like 1:30 a.m. Some of them, like college kids, they always seem to disappear around 1:30 a.m. Sometimes 1:30 p.m., 12 noon. So it varies with the college kids that disappear, after coming from a bar. But people that be in the national parks or be in an area where there's a lot of trees and a lot of wooded areas and mountain ranges, they always seem to disappear in the afternoon. So there is a pattern. Okay. Now when you eliminate the facts like there's no tracks, no sound, and no scent, or no scent on the trail. How could that even happen? Because if you were walking in the area, there should be a scent, but there isn't. Dogs, the canines can't seem to pick up the scent. Actually, that is what gets you to that point where you start thinking beyond a normal way of thinking. You start saying, well, maybe they were elevated somehow, not by a crane, not by a rope, maybe by some other means, but by what? My guess would be a UFO, or they were somehow sucked into a void very quickly to where it wouldn't leave any tracks, or they walked into oblivion somehow. Still there's no tracks. So wherever they were last seen, they disappeared at that point. When they was out of an eye shot or an earshot, that's when they were taken within seconds. You got people that go ahead of go ahead of the group that they're in. They go up a hill, and when they get up the hill themselves and get to the point where that person should have been, they're gone. It's like soon as they hit, like say if you walking up the hill, right, and you see them going down the hill, and you see their body just getting just disappearing layer by layer from the feet all the way up to the head. And once the top of their head disappears over that hill, bam, that's when they take them. They take them in that instant, and then that's it. No more person. Okay. Let's see. Now, if a person in a group and they walk away, and it's like I said before, now this is like hunters. You know, because like there was a story about an old man who was too old to move around the way this man and his son was moving around. So they said that we will flush out the deer and we'll flush them in your direction so that way you can hunt. That way you won't have to walk so far. They move away for a couple of minutes, and when they come back, the person is gone. I see, like what I said here. If a person in a group and if there is a person in a group and they walk away from them for a few minutes and they come back and they're gone. Like I said, that's just how it is. That's how it happens. There's so many variables to all of these cases. You got people who just vanish after you turn your head and you look back and poof, they're gone. And you got people who walk away from them to probably go take a leak somewhere near a tree, and then you come back, poof, they're gone, and there's no sign of them anywhere at all. You know, just like Stacey Harris. You know, she went in between a line of trees and poof, she just disappeared. They never found her. All they found was the lens cap to her camera. Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, when you're berry picking, you go missing. Okay, and that sometimes would be a child or even a grown person. If they're picking berries, for some reason you seem to disappear and are never found. You know, sometimes they may be found somewhere in a box cane or a ravine, you know, dead with no cause of death. Or it could be some major head trauma, like it's just someone threw you off the cliff and you landed head first onto the ground. That did happen to one woman where it looked like she had been thrown because her body was a couple hundred feet away from the cliff, like as if she either leaped and the wind may have carried her body a little bit as she was in the air, or something flung her, not through her, but flung her way across the air over the cliff, and she landed somewhere far away from the cliff. It's not like she tripped and fell straight down. No, she fell out and down. And they said that her brain was scattered all over the rocky floor. You know, so massive head trauma. Not a very good sight. I actually saw that once during 9/11 where someone's brain was actually on the ground because of the people that was jumping out of the buildings and landing smack dab on the street or like on the sidewalk. Because they did a documentary that I actually still have in my cabinet, where you could hear the sound of bodies crashing to the ground after they fell. It just sounded like a loud crash. Now I don't know how the human body sounds, but they did have a photo of the body of a person that was shattered into a million pieces after they hit the ground. It was like in chunks. And I was like, ugh. And then there was one photo of a person whose leg was completely severed from his body, but it was attached to some. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. That's y'all don't want to hear about that. Okay. Let me see. Okay, the ones who are never found sometimes. Oh yeah, the ones who are never found sometimes leave behind unexplained evidence, like tiny bone fragments that are leaked clean, clothing that is folded neatly on a log somewhere, but the boots are gone. And sometimes you may find one boot out of the two that you should find in that area, but that is never there for some reason. And they try to figure out why is it that you took one boot but left the other one behind, or why is it that both boots are gone? Because boots, what are you gonna do with a bunch of boots? Plus the fact boots last a very long time in the wilderness or in the elements, because leather is so strong. It can stay together for like ages, for at least hundreds of years at the most. Oh yeah, now about the bone fragments and then being lit clean, there's never any sign of DNA on the bones. It's just a bone, you know. 'Cause, you know, if you have a bone on, if you have a bone that's found in the area, it's going to be some ounce of DNA on there. And what the DNA they will look for is the DNA of whoever killed that person. But that's never found on there. But there's no blood on the bones. There's no muscle, meat. There's no brain matter anywhere. You just found a tiny little bone, like maybe a tibia from your ankle. And another thing, as far as the clothing, when they find that scene at the area where the person was found dead, or the area where they should have been, and they found the clothes but not the body, a lot of times the pants will be unbuckled and unzipped. And see, that's the weirdest part. How is it that you're not here but your pants are unbuckled? So that means either you took your pants off for some odd and unknown reason, or somebody else took your pants off. Maybe they were sexually assaulted by somebody and then they killed them, but that person is never found. So it could be anything at that point, because why would you take your pants off? And depending on when they were found, it may be in the dead of winter when they disappeared, but yet you removed your pants. Why would you do that? And why would your pants be unbuckled at a scene like that? So it's the same thing with Jerry Atadero. They said when they found his article of clothing, his sweatpants were inside out. So that would mean they took his sweats off. And as you know, when you take your pants off, if you take your pants off the wrong way, what'll happen is you pulling on them and they become inside out, and the leg, the little holes where the feet going, would be right at the ankle, and you would have to actually pull them off of the feet, and thusly your sweatpants are inside out. Which is very weird, because Alan Adderall, he said that there was no scratch marks on the clothing. There was no tears, no rips, because they said that maybe it was a mountain lion that killed your son. And he said, but look at the clothes; they're not torn into like a bunch of claws. Like there's no claw marks on the clothing, so it can't be that. But yet all they found was his clothes, one shoe, a tooth, and the top of his cranium, which alone was weird enough as it is, because how is it that you only find the top of his cranium and one tooth? Something, and I do mean something, ate his son to the point where there was nothing left but the top of his cranium. It's like I said before, it's like almost like they picked him up, placed him in the mouth of whatever beast or predator that was, bit down on the area, like say right here, and the only thing that was left behind was the top of his cranium, and yet they scooped out the brain. And you can see when you do that, actually this part of your skull is not attached to the brain, so when you lift it up, the brain is still in this part of your skull. It doesn't stick to that part, so you can remove that, clean it off, and there's nothing left. But yet they took the skin off and everything, the hair, all that, which is, like I said, this is a morbid situation with him, because that's all they found of him. That and a tooth in his clothes and one shoe. And that's the thing that happened with a lot of these cases. You find one shoe when you should have found two of them. Always. And then the shoe was pristine. It's almost like it just came off the showroom floor. And if you was out there in the elements, there would be some mud on it or whatever. But it wasn't. Anyway. Okay. If you're wearing bright clothes, them are the kind of people that always disappear as well. Like Hunter that had on a bright orange vest, and he went missing along with his equipment and his gear. So if you go into a national park or a national forest, never wear bright clothes. Always wear something like this, a dark. Well, don't have that on there where it's nice and bright, but always wear dark clothing, like black clothes, when you go into a national park or a national forest. If I ever go, that's what I would have, along with a personal transponder locator, a gun, and I would be in a group, a very big group. So I would make sure that I won't be the one that's taken. I'm just saying. So, like I said, Little helpful tidbit. If you out there, if you one of them people out there in YouTube land that likes the wilderness, keep all that stuff in mind. Okay, if you like guns, carry one with you. Okay, and make sure you always have that personal transponder locator. Okay. Okay. And like I said, them people with the bright clothes, they're never found. Okay, dogs walk in a circle and they lay down on the trailhead. And the reason why they do that is because they can't find the scent. So then they lose interest. They walk around the circle and they lay down. That's it. They don't want to search anymore because they can't find it. Unless they sense something that we can't sense. If we're the trainer, maybe they see something that he doesn't want to deal with. Maybe they're scared. I don't know. But it's never been determined on why they act like that. You know, why they don't want to search, because they live for the search. When they be all happy, the tails are wagging, that they out there sniffing for whoever. You know, they love their job. You know, and it's good for dogs that have something to do because that keeps them busy. So and it keeps them energetic and healthy. It's good. In other words, it's good exercise for them. Okay. Now, experienced hikers disappear on the trail and are never found. Experienced hikers. We're talking about people that can be hiking in that area all the time. I mean, for years. They know the trail. They know the area like the back of their hand. Sometimes better than the Park Service members. Okay, and they go on the same trail every day for years, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, poof, you disappear. It's almost like they wait just that long for people to realize that they're experts. Okay, but then at the same time, they also make sure you realize that even the experts aren't safe out there in the woods. You could be the most experienced hiker there is on the planet, the number one hiker, and they will still take you because you're vulnerable to their power. Okay, very vulnerable, and that's sad. I don't like that one bit. Okay. Oh yeah, people disappear in areas with the name devil in them. Exactly. Yeah. People seem to disappear with the name devil in the name of the area that they were in. Very, very strange. Like Devil's Gulch, Devil's Bowl, which is an actual place. Okay, but yet people always seem to disappear in places like that. You know, like you got Death Valley. You know. And of course, that's only because it's really hot there. And if you were out there, you would probably die of starvation, of course, and you would die of hydration. You know, no water, unless you know how to drink from a cactus. I don't know if I want to do that because I ain't trying to get purple to death. But anyway, but yeah, even if you're an experienced hiker and a camper and a jogger, you're not safe. And, you know, they always let you know that no matter what you do to keep yourself safe, they're always going to be one step ahead of you no matter what, and they're going to take you. You know, man, this person's been hiking for years, and all of a sudden, boom, they're gone. You know? Like I said, it is what it is. All right. Children are tracked to elevations that are too high for them to go, and sometimes are found or never found. And see, that's another thing that's very strange. You got children who somehow get away from their parents or their relatives, and they end up being tracked, into high elevations in the mountains, which makes no sense because how is it that you got this far and we're tracking you all the way up a mountain, a snowy mountain at that, especially if it started to snow. You know, and that seems to happen a lot too. A lot of these cases. Every time someone goes missing, all of a sudden this big storm comes in. Whether it's a snowstorm, which we're talking about 20, like maybe a couple of drifts of snow that pile up within hours. And then like they'll track you to a certain spot. Sometimes they're found barely alive, and they can't remember what happened. Sometimes they're never found. You know. It was very, very lucky that Keith Parkins was found. He was found way out there, 12 miles away, 19 hours later. It's crazy. Okay. Let's see. Sometimes certain personal items of the missing are found, like boots and one article of clothing. Yeah, that's pretty much how they always go. It always seems to happen where you find one article of clothing, one boot, but no person. You know, how is it that the person is gone and the rest of your clothes are gone except for one item or two items, the shoe or the boot and a shirt or whatever? Weird. Okay. Now, the coroners will not. Wait, hold on. I don't want to read that part because I wrote it wrong. Okay, the families will ask for a death certificate for them to actually sell their home, but the coroner's office will not issue one if there's no COD, cause of death, because if there's no cause of death, you can't say that the person is dead, so therefore you're not going to get a death certificate to sell your house. And sometimes people have to fight just to get it because they don't want to keep the house that they live in with this man all these years. They want to sell it, get rid of it, because they don't want to be reminded of him like that and know that he's not going to be there. So I heard of a case like that where a woman had to fight to get her the death certificate for her husband, and he was a park ranger of all people. They tried to say that he just left the park and ran away. You know, that's just their way of trying to keep you from learning what you should learn about the case, but they ain't gonna never give it up. I love green tea. It's very good for the common cold. You know, I was drinking it when I first got a cold. I drank it a little bit, and after the second bottle, I felt so much better because I caught it right when I first got it. This one was a little different. It was already full blown at that point, so I'm still working on it and drinking my green tea so that I can start feeling a lot better and drain all this crap out of my system. You know, I got to be more resilient in that area. But anyway, okay, I did that part. Okay, canines can never pick up the scent. I already talked about that. Now, most of the victims will have some sort of disability, like I said before, like autism. It'll be like maybe they're crippled or they can't walk, they can't talk. They may have diabetes, cancer, all that stuff. And yet, those are the same people that's taken for some reason. I don't know, maybe they want to cure them and have them live in another dimension or what. I don't know, because they never found most of those people. Okay. Now, last and definitely least, they always, for some reason, become ill or tired before they vanish, which is very true. You got some people who always seem to, they in a bar with their friends, or they at a party at someone's house, and then somewhere throughout the night they say, well, I'm not feeling too well. I'm just going to go home. I'm going to go back to my dorm. Or they say that I'm tired, so I'm going to go home. And they end up walking home alone. They don't let nobody drive them. They leave by themselves and they walk home. And it may be a mile away from where they are now. At that point. But they always seem to walk home. Nobody ever drives them home. I mean, what kind of friend would do something like that and let them walk home in the dark from point A to point B? But at the same time, they would, you would think that a friend would be a good friend, and they would say, "Oh, hey, I'll drive you home. Over, that way you ain't gotta walk so far." But they do it anyway. And when they do that, what happens? They disappear from point A and point B. So, yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much all of the key points, key profile points in these cases. Those are some of the highlights that David Paulides always talks about on Coast to Coast AM or any other interview that he's given. So I hope that puts some light on what you guys may think about these cases, and it gives you some insight on what they find in a lot of the evidence. It's very strange and very unsettling, and for right now, very unsolvable, because they find the body, they don't find no cause of death, and they lie about it just so they can be done with it. Like accidental drowning or hypothermia, which makes no sense whatsoever, because they weren't out there in the wilderness or in the cold long enough for that to happen. But they still say it, so it is what it is. But yeah, that is my time on this video today. I would have made this one an hour video, but I didn't have enough information for me to do that. So I could add more, but you know, I want to keep I want to keep the excitement going with all these. That's like I said, like I've always said in my last videos, ever since I reached 100 subscribers, I just want to thank you guys so much for getting me to my goal, and I want to keep going with it. I want to keep getting subscribers. You know, I want to hit 500 subscribers. So, like I said in my last video, you know what to do. Tell your friends, tell your family members that may be into this stuff. And if they like it, tell them to come to my channel, and I will, supply all the information that they need. They can look at my past videos and my present videos, and if they like it, just tell them, hit me with that thumbs up and subscribe. Hit me up with a comment if you got any ideas or what you may think happens to these people, the victims, when they go into these places. Just and become a part of the crew. Okay, if you have an open mind, you know where to come. This is a place of that you can feel wanted, because we look for your expertise, your insight on what you think is happening. If you, like I said, if you got an open mind, come here, come to your family. That's what we all are here for. We're here to trying to figure out what's going on, because I've told you guys in the past that the facts are what you need to open up your mind in these cases, because the facts will tell you that something weird is going on, and the only thing left is for you to figure out why it's happening. Now, if the facts are telling you that it's if the facts are leading you, if the facts are leading you to the point where you can figure it out in a weird way, and you already done figured it out. You done solved the case. The only problem is you don't have proof to back that up, and you will never get proof to back all that up, because it's just too strange. They will never even try to admit that that's what happened to these people. So, but yeah, this is what this page is for. It's for you to open your mind. It's for you to say that, okay, I know that's what happened to these people. So, yeah, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to enlighten everyone. I'm here to open up your eyes, open up your mind, and hopefully one day we will figure this out. Even though we already did, the thing is, we have to get everyone else to realize that too. We have to make sure that everyone else believes that. But see, the National Park Service and the government is not going to let that happen. They're not going to let you realize that's what it is, because they already brainwashed us to believe that most of the stuff that we already know about when it comes to this kind of stuff, it's all folklore, fairy tales, or science fiction. That's what they want us to believe. That's why they taught us this stuff. That's why they brainwashed us to believe all this mess. But when you start seeing stuff like ghosts, and you start seeing stuff like UFOs, obviously, if those are real, then all this other stuff is real too. Whatever you can come up with to help you realize why that person turned up dead without a cause of death. If you can come up with an analogy or a reason why that is so out of that it's so out of the norm. The out of the norm part is is what can solve all this. There's your proof right there. It's just a matter of people believing it and accepting the fact that these things are real, and these things do happen in some of the weird ways. There are such things as dimensions. There are such things as parallel Earths, and other planets that have aliens on them. Maybe these aliens are actually humans. Maybe who be coming here are these like next level serial killers that can actually use 100% of their brain's capacity, and they use that ability to kill people without touching them. That's always been my theory. So it's up to you and everyone else out there to believe it. Not saying that you don't. If you come into my channel, obviously you do. But if you have your own ideas, I'm welcome to. I'm more than welcome. I'll be more than welcome to hear it. So anyway, gotta go. It's getting late. I gotta get some rest. I gotta be to work by noon tomorrow. Oof, boy. Not saying I don't mind, but still, I gotta get some rest. So Without further ado, aloha, mahalo, and a hui hoi. I will see you guys again on the next video. So get some rest, guys. It's gonna be a big one. You know, we got some more coming. It's gonna be another good one. So have at thee, my friends. Peace.